a client invited me to do a talk for a group that they're involved in. And the group asked me, how do you know that people have innate health and well-being? How do you know that this stuff is true? Because of course, I'm pretty sparing with what I say is true. You've heard me suggest that the two most valuable things a person can discover are how experience is created and who they really are. Well, I reckon those things are true. I'd take them to the bank. I'd hang my hat on them. Not literally, and metaphorically I don't even own a hat. So those things are true. And so I was asked, how do you know? I said, well, two ways. The first way is I've realized them insightfully, and there's a scale it's an empirical measure used by scientists called the mystical experience scale. And with the mystical experience scale, they get people to evaluate the experiences they've had across a number of different criteria, including, actually, I wrote it in Clarity, fortunately, a number of different criteria, including, but not limited to, unity, a sense of unity. That's one of the criteria. Transcendence of time and space. That's another one. Ineffability. That's another one. Sacredness, positive mood, and noetic quality. And the noetic quality is the sense of knowing something without knowing something even more, with even greater certainty than you know something like your name or what 2 plus 2 equals, or, you know, anything else like that. So when you know something, that the noetic quality is the sense of knowing it with a deep knowing beyond sensory or scientific data. So I said the first reason I know it with such a deep knowing is because, like you, I said, I've had insights, I've had realizations that made a real difference in my life. Like, you guys have probably heard me talk about the first couple of insights I had into this understanding. The first one, I realized everything, everything you've been looking for outside of you is already there within you. I didn't kind of figure that out. I went from not knowing it to knowing it like you know your own name, realizing it. So that we have this, to tell you a story. I was coaching a guy, and he had been referred to me because he had extreme anxiety and it was interfering with his work. And he described it as being like a knot of dread in his stomach, like he was just so caught up with that anxiety and insecurity. And he said, I know it's because I'm overthinking, but I don't know what to do about it. I said, well, you're not overthinking. He said, I'm not. I said, no. I said, I'll give you an example. I said, have you ever had that thing where you're wandering around your apartment or your house in the dark or late at night, and you catch a glimpse of something and it seems like it's a person, and you kind of freak out, and then you realize it's a pile of coats or a lamp or something like that? And he said, oh yeah, I had that just the other day. He said, I was in my office working at my desk. He said, and all of a sudden, out of the corner of my eye, I got a glimpse of an intruder. I said, oh, really? He said, yeah, but when I turned around and had a proper look, it was an ironing board. It wasn't an intruder. It was an ironing board. I said, okay, great. Now, I said, when you thought it was an intruder, what happened in your nervous system? He said, oh, I was freaking out. Like, my heart was racing, adrenaline was shooting, like, just for a few seconds, right? You got like a proper shock. I said, right. What happened when you realized it was an ironing board? He was like, relief, relief. I said, now, how did you go from thinking there was an intruder to knowing there was an ironing board? How did you change it from one to the other? He said, Well, I didn't. I just realized it was an ironing board. See, that his massive fight or flight response was a response to something he believed to be true, but was never there in the first place. And he realized it was an ironing board. Well, realization, like the clues in the word, it's a natural power that we have within us to bring us to bring our perception more closely into alignment with reality. So while he believed there was an intruder, fight or flight was the correct response. He wasn't overthinking. He was doing the right thing when he believed there was an intruder. The moment he realized it was an ironing board, whew, relief, closer to reality. So I said, you've got that capacity within you. You've got that capacity for insight and realization. And its job is to align your perception more closely with what's already true. So I said, yeah, first reason is I've had my own insights. My first insight, oh, everything you've been looking for outside of you is already there within you. Second insight, the fact that a person can even see or hear or feel means they have that source of resilience, realization, insight, peace, joy, beauty within them. As soon as I saw that changed how I related to my clients. It immediately made me more hopeful for my clients because I knew that they had this capacity within them. So when they asked me, why are you so certain about this? How do you know it's true? I said, well, two reasons. First reason is because I've had these insights, which brings with it that noetic quality of knowing something, even though you can't prove it with math or whatever, like knowing it in your heart. And I said to them, I said, have you had insights and realizations that you know to be true, even if you couldn't prove it with math or science or whatever? And everyone there was like, yeah, I have actually. So that's the first reason. But then the second reason was once I saw, oh, this is principles, I thought, well, if they're principles, then they either are or they aren't. And if they are, then they're behind every human experience. They're resident in every human phenomenon. So anywhere where there are human beings doing something, these principles are going to be relevant. I said, so if these are principles, then let's go find out whether they're principles or not. Let's put them to the test. And so I approached it, I don't want to say like a scientist, because I'm not scientifically trained, but I didn't have any sacred cows. I was like, let's just go and see. Let's put it to the test. Let's ask all the difficult questions. Let's find out if these really are principles. And so I've been putting it to the test because here's the thing. By the way, I'll shut up in a moment and you guys can ask your questions. I'm just kind of setting the table. Up until I stumbled across this understanding, my specialty for the previous decade had been conversational belief change. So I've been fascinated with the nature of beliefs. And when I first came to the principles, I was like, this is just another belief system. And my early mentors said, no, it's not a belief system. These are principles. These are facts. And I'm like, every belief system says that, but that's what everyone says, but it's just a belief system. They said, well, what do you mean? I said, well, you can think anything and experience it as real. You can believe anything and experience it as real. And one of my mentors said, is that a fact? I said, yeah. He said, okay, so that's a fact. The fact that you can think and experience it as a reality, that fact is an expression of a principle. That's not a belief. That's an expression of a principle. And I was like, whoa, that's true. So the certainty I have about your capacity for mental health, for well-being, for realization, for peace, for joy, for love, for truth, for beauty, for healing, isn't personal. It's something that has developed started with the seed of those insights that I had for myself. And then it's just grown as I put it to the test. And so I encourage you guys as we go through this program together and with our colleagues over the next best part of a year, I encourage you to put it to the test. I definitely don't need you to take anything on faith. I don't need you to take my word for it. It's absolutely fine to question whatever you think needs questioning. There are no sacred cows in any of this, because if this is principles, and I think it is, then it should be big enough and ugly enough to take care of itself. It shouldn't need me to endorse it or, defend it or anything like that. We all ought to be able to have a look for ourselves and look and see if it's the case. Thanks for your attention. I look forward to seeing you soon.